Welcome into today's episode of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Mike Renner here, joined by Pete Prisco, Douzable, live, actually not live, from Indianapolis here at the Combine. Drills are going on right now. We will talk about those after the weekend goes on. But right now, a bunch of stories, fellas, here that hit today. Which one do you want to talk about? We got Abdul Carter with the stress reaction in his foot. We got Travis Kelce confirmed to be returning 2025. We got Trey Smith, guard, tagged by the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's start with the Abdul Carter news. Stress reaction. Have you ever even heard of that, Pete? You've been around this for forever.
No, but it's what happens before you break it.
Correct.
I mean, so it has to either be rested or be fixed.
Okay.
And you can't. I think he needs to rest it and not take part in his pro day, and then let it go from there. And everybody will say, well, if you don't take part in your pro day, what's good? Who cares?
Exactly.
Who cares if he takes part in his pro day? You want him healthy when it's time to play football, and I think ultimately that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, I had something similar to this injury on the top of my foot, and it was like Pete said, the doctor told me no weight-bearing stuff for about 2 months. I would get an MRI, check to see if it lingered or was a little bit better. It was better. Then I was able to resume all my activity and train to get ready for the NFL season. I did that for about 5 or 6 years. Now, after I finished playing, because of the wear and tear, I am going to have to get some things cleaned up. And that's something that Abdul Carter maybe has to weigh in, right? Will this be in a long-term effect or not? But I'm with Pete. As players, we never want to go under the knife, right? There's so much stuff to be left to interpretation, right? Infection could happen. Something could go wrong with the surgery. And then even talking about your healing process and rehabbing, like that can go to the left. So like if a doctor tells him 2 months, stay off of it, no weight-bearing stuff, we'll revisit it. If everything is good, then you can go on. But I'm like, Pete, what does he need to show at Pro Day right now?
Nothing. By the way, if he's an old man like you and he needs a surgery, you need not worry about it.
Exactly.
Right now. Worry about it down the road when you're 50 like Leger.
50 is crazy.
Yeah, to me, it's not like some guys, Will Johnson opted out of testing today. A lot of the Michigan guys did. He needs to test, though, pre-draft. I think a lot of people say to get where he wants to be drafted, he'll need to test.
Yeah.
Abdul Carter, to get drafted where he wants to draft, he could not even work out from now until to the NFL draft, right? It's like Chase Young didn't test. Marvin Harris Jr. didn't test. When you're that guy, you don't have to test. So I don't think it's a big deal. Abdul Carter. Travis Kelce, though, returning. Chiefs tagging Trey Smith. The Kelce news, I think,
The news of the news was that he's going to get in shape.
Yeah.
That's the news.
Did he say it?
He said that.
That's what he said.
He said he's going to be in the best shape of his life because he was in the worst shape of his life last year.
Shape.
He was not good. I mean, let's be real. It was a shell of himself. And getting him in shape is important. If you're going to play football, you got to be in shape. Not only that, there were plays in Super Bowl where he loafed. I mean, he really did. He did not put an all-out effort in there, and that's concerning. So if you're going to come back, be Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Don't be I'm gallivanting all over the world, Kelce. Be Travis Kelce, the football player.
And that's the interesting thing, because we just talked about this, Pete. Like, Father Time is undefeated. And one thing I noticed.
Other than this seat.
I hear you on that. One thing I did realize when I was playing and I was getting up to year 6, 7, 8, 9, stuff that you could do in year 2 or 3, you can't do it year 8, 9, 10, 11. So, like, you talked about it. Yes, he lives a fun life, right? He has a podcast with his brother. He's dating one of the most famous people in the world. But if you want to get back to the pinnacle and being the Travis Kelce who you are, you're going to have to make some sacrifices, right? And that comes to training, your eating habits, getting rest, right? Subsequent rest. I know I sound like an old dude, but you got to get that rest the older you get in the league. So that'll be interesting. He said he had a bad taste in his mouth. We're going to see how focused he's going to be this offseason.
Yeah, and even if, he doesn't get back any athleticism, doesn't lose any weight, it's like what he does in that offense doesn't require athleticism. It just requires being on the same page with Patrick Mahomes in a way that, a Noah Gray really can't. Other guys, Jared White, who they just drafted, really just probably are never going to be able to. It's a unique connection they have. And so getting him back, I think, a big.
But he does have to be in shape, though.
It helps.
I mean, even what he's doing has changed. Sitting down in zones more and that type of thing instead of running away from people. You still have to be in shape.
Correct.
Trey Smith tagged.
Man.
Do we think this is for a long-term deal, or do we think this is for a tag and trade?
It's for a long-term deal. We had Brett Beach here the other day, and he said basically they want to make sure that they keep him or do everything they can. I think this is just a precursor to a deal. This number is outrageous for a guard, in large part because they keep the tackles in the number when they come up with the franchise tag number. So they have to do a long-term deal. I think they will do a long-term deal. The one thing we knew about the Chiefs for the run in the last couple of years has been the interior of the offensive line has been great.
Best in the
Well,
league.
they had to move Tooney to tackle,
Yeah.
and that really weakened them on the interior. Bring those guys back, get it back together, and then figure out the tackle spot.
This is my thing. Me and Pete were talking about this earlier, and I had JJ get in on this conversation. And I wondered, would Trey Smith try to go the Kirk Cousins route? Now, it's chancy, right? Because you're banking on being healthy throughout this whole year. But if you are healthy, you make $3 more million in the next guard in the league.
Yeah.
And then you get to hit free agency again.
Still young.
But it's a risk because you have to stay healthy the entire season and play still high-level football.
I don't think, though, from the Chiefs' perspective, they just want $27 million sitting on the cap for a guard this year.
I mean, he can play hardball, though.
He could. He definitely could. I mean, what's the tag? That's like the worry with tag. But I'm guessing they've had conversations. I am interested, though, if it is a tag and trade. But I do think so because they did it last year, right? L'Jarius Sneed. They tagged him, traded him to the Tennessee Titans. So they just did it a year ago. But they only got a third for L'Jarius Sneed. I don't. Would someone give up a third? Because that's what you get a compensatory.
You got to still
pick
pay
you
him too. You got to
Yes.
think about that.
So is someone going to give up a third?
They might get a fourth or fifth, but I
I
don't
could
think.
see a top of the fourth.
Yeah.
And if you're the Chiefs, like,
Well,
you
is
get
it
the
worth it?
pick a year earlier
Is
doing
it
that?
is it worth it for the Chiefs to trade him for a 4 rather
I
than
don't
give him
think
a
it is.
long-term
I
contract?
mean, is it better than losing him for nothing in free agency though?
But here's you. Oh, tagging him is the right decision.
Yeah.
But tagging him and signing him to an extension, I think if you're the Chiefs and the one thing that you saw from the Super Bowl is you couldn't protect your quarterback, why would you weaken yourself and have a position of concern to add to the whole equation? It makes no sense to me.
But that's the issue. Now you're going to have 3 of the highest paid
Yes.
interior linemen, and your offensive tackles are in disarray. So, I mean, again, Ronnie Stanley's out there. We both think that Baltimore is going to get a deal with him. But if you're the Chiefs, I'd be trying to knock down every door to get a left tackle in the worst way. And paying Trey Smith does not help you with that right now.
Yeah, I think they.
I love him. I love him. But I think they should either tag him and trade him, or just let him go in free agency.
I do agree that you tag Trey Smith, you pay Trey Smith, you have the highest paid interior offensive line in the NFL, like by miles.
It's not even
But it's
close.
the best.
It's the best.
It is.
It's the highest paid.
But Mahomes still getting killed at the offensive tackle position.
Exactly. There's no more money left over for tackle. What do? Your back end of the first round pick is not going to be a starting offensive tackle for you. You're banking on Kingsley Suamataia, Wanya Morris. It's like they could be in the exact same spot they were at the end of this year.
For sure.
I don't know. I'm finding a way to. I'd get that number down to where it's lesser, and you can still find if you give them a long-term deal, the number's going to be less on the
Correct.
cap this year. You
Yeah.
can go out and sign a tackle.
That is the thing, and that's going to be interesting to watch in free agency because the salary cap did increase from $23.8 million from last year, $279.2 million. The trend is just through the roof, darn near 10% year-on-year increase. I think smart teams are just going to be going out in free agency and saying, we'll backload some of these contracts because the cap just keeps going up at this point.
Right, you backload the contract, but you also do the best thing about keeping your own. You draft and develop and keep your own. And that's why you look at the free agency list. It isn't a lot. There aren't a lot of big names on that list because teams have done a great job of developing and paying their own.
Yep.
And like you said, you backload it and you don't have to worry about it. Now, ultimately, you got to pay the price at some point. Like the New Orleans Saints are finding out, you have to pay the price. Or if you do a bad deal and give Deshaun Watson guaranteed money, you got a problem with that as well. But again, if you're smart, you can figure out the cap, and that's why I talk about with the guy like Trey Smith. If you give him a long-term deal, you narrow that number down, you still have money to go spend on a left tackle.
You think Cincinnati, because this number has juiced up, that they potentially tag T. Higgins?
I think T. Higgins is getting a new contract. I think Jamar Chase is getting a new contract, and I think Trey Hendrickson is getting a new contract. Yes,
I think they can do it. I mean,
they have cap room.
Yeah,
and it just takes a lot of cash, but they can do it, and I think they will do it.
I think they get T, they get Jamar. I don't think they go with Trey.
Well, he's got one more year left in his deal.
They got Miles Murphy. He's got one more year left. They're just going to call
Miles Murphy hasn't panned out.
Yeah, but
no, he hasn't panned out.
Sam
and you're going to let a guy who's had 17 and a half sacks the last 2 years go out the door.
Well, I think they're going to call us bluff, not call us bluff, but just say, hey, we got one more year on your deal. Sorry.
And show us again.
Yeah.
And if he shows him again, then what do you do?
Well, then you let him walk because he's 31 years old after that. I don't know.
I'm not letting him walk.
I mean, guys are playing at 35 now, though.
True. But there is, the age curve.
It does. Yeah.
It does.
So,
but I'm not letting him go.
He was the best defensive player you had, and your defense was abysmal.
Now, would I give him a 5-year extension for mega dollars? No, but I'd give him a 2-year. Give him some more money in his pocket. Yeah.
All right, we shall see what happens. All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, going to play a little game. guessing who is going to rise up the most with their performance at Combine Week. All right, tease it before the break. We have a little game here we're going to do. We have this draft board, prospect rankings on CBSSports.com. You can go check them out. It's a top 400 board that has pretty much all the names that anyone
I'd like to know who put this board
know.
together.
That's
It's
a
a
good
conglomeration of, so my board only went out to 100. So I don't know how we got 400 names, but we got 400 names on this board. So we're going to pick guys, and we're going to go before and after the combine, because everyone at CBS here is going to update their boards post-combine, all the draft analysts. So it's going to get updated, and we're going to bet which one of us, after 5 rounds of drafting, has the most rising high. The guys rise the most spots on the draft board. If you can figure out what I just said,
You figure that out. You deserve the rights, number one.
I mean,
I am also a little biased in that my board's going to factor into this, so I can help
was
myself
going to say, is
out
that
here.
cheating?
Well, he only did 100.
But there's like 5. It's 5.
You only
guys,
did 100.
Oh,
So, yeah.
so when you redo it, are you going to do 300?
I'm gonna go out to I think at least 150. So
Okay. This first name, I was baffled that y'all guys had him ranked this low.
I think this might have just been like a forgotten about one. Is what it is.
Brandon Adams at 368 is ridiculous. I mean, guys that are 6'3".
Where'd he go to school?
He went to UCF.
Okay,
He went
that's
to
what I thought.
UCF.
That's what I
At the
thought.
Senior Bowl.
That's what I thought.
If you're looking for a man cover corner, he's your guy. That's where he lives. Again, the measurables are out of this world. I think he's going to run really well. Honestly, after this week in the combine, I could see you guys putting him even within the 150 range.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
If you got a
I'm just
200
saying.
spot bump. That
You
would
got a
be-
200 spot
that
bump.
would
He
be
will.
over.
My thing is, why is he at 368 in the first place?
Yeah.
He
Well, that's
shouldn't
just
be
a bad
there.
ranking.
But that's why I put him down there. 'Cause
Right.
After the combine, they'll be like, "Well, we shouldn't have had him this low. We're going to move him all the way up."
All right, that's a good one.
So
I
that's
like
why
that.
I chose him first.
But he's from UCF.
That's why I chose him first.
My pick was LeJohntay Webster.
Oh, you
Webster.
love LeJohntay Webster.
I love him too.
And the reason I like him is because I like little guys who can run. And I think he's a tough kid. He's a Florida kid.
Yes.
He can return punts. I think LeJohntay Webster is going to be a big-time player in the NFL.
Leger drafts the UCF grad. Pete drafts the smallest wide receiver in the draft. I think we see a trend.
Taz might be a little smaller than
Oh, okay,
Johnson.
fair. I'm going to go another small-ish wide receiver. I'm going to go Jalen Noel, the Iowa State wide receiver. He's 166 right now on the CBS draft board. He was at the Senior Bowl. Guy can really roll. I have him among my top 10 wide receivers in this draft class. We shall see where he ends up after this. But he could throw low 4.4s, high 4.3s. If he does that, tests very well in the broad vert stuff. I think we'll be talking about
him.
him
He's at 166. He
higher
doesn't have a
than
lot of way to go up. Much. Really.
Yeah.
8 spots. Yeah, I know. But I think he'll go up into the top 100 after this.
I mean, you didn't explain the game, so I don't know if you understand.
It's by points how many slots you move up on the board.
Yeah.
Totaling over 5 different guys. My next one, I did not do this well because I picked 146 here. Nick Martin out of Oklahoma State. But I'm just going guys that I know for a fact are going to test well and get themselves up board. He's the Oklahoma State linebacker. Undersized, yes. 6 foot, 222. But I would not be surprised if he runs in the 4.4s at that size. And if he does, there's some linebackers in this class that are going to roll.
I was going to say, this is a fast linebacker class.
He's amongst them. I love his tape before he got hurt. 146, he can go higher.
And I'm going with a wide receiver from Washington State named Kyle Williams.
See, I forgot about him.
And he's
I
at
am
222, and
an
there's
idiot,
no
'cause I love him.
way he should be ranked at 222.
Yeah, no.
That's embarrassing.
So
honestly.
unless he stumbles all over himself here, he's going to be way higher on this board. And I think he's going to have a good workout here. So he's at 222. I think Kyle Williams goes way up.
This next guy I've had an affinity with. I put Ryan Wilson on this guy sometime in October. I've called 2 of his games. That's Zay Frazier from UTSA. People give the comparison to Tariq Woolen, yes, because they went to the same school, but they're different players. Zay Frazier, I liken it to this, Pete. I said after week 6 last season, there wasn't a corner that played with more confidence than Zay Frazier. And he's only a 1-year starter, so there's so much room to grow. I talked to his head coach, Jeff Traylor. They said he's going to run 4.2 something. Ooh. So after that, him at 156, and he was at the East-West game.
Yeah.
I honestly think he's going to be a top 90 pick. This kid can fly. He can play man. He can play zone coverage. He's a long corner. You know this, Pete. Long corners don't grow on trees.
Nope.
Like, you got length at corner, you're going to go high in the draft. So
he'll go up 60 spots.
I think he's going to go up at least 60 spots.
There's two ways to recover a corner. One's fast. One's to have long arms.
Yeah.
He's got both.
You got
of
both.
them. He's got both of them.
Right?
You
He's
can
going to go up
mess
60
up a lot.
spots. You got him 60 spots.
I got to
That
go
would
up
be-
60 spots.
That would be a heck of a jump.
Yeah.
You got another one. Snaking it.
Yep, Femi Oladejo, another guy I have an affinity with. Had a heck of a Senior Bowl. He was a guy that kind of like people talk about Abdul Carter being a off the ball linebacker. This was Femi Oladejo's first year on the line of scrimmage, and boy did he impress. He's a guy that can only rush at the end. He could rush at 3 technique. He did that at the Senior Bowl. But Pete, you know what else he did? He did one-on-ones with the linebackers and dropped and covered running backs at the Senior Bowl as well. So you talk about a guy that's highly versatile. I couldn't believe he was at 149. I think he's going in the second round. So this is another guy I think that's going to jump at least 40 to 50 spots.
My guy is running back Jaden Blue from Texas. And I know he was in a rotation system there. But, boy, I'll tell you what, he can do a lot of things, and he's got speed. And I think he's going to test well here. I think he's going to run well. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Yep. I love this kid. I think this is way too low at 258.
He was Emery's pick yesterday for fastest 40 at the Combine.
I'm telling you, you watch the tape, he runs away from people.
He can fly.
All right, my pick, I got back-to-backs here. I'm going to go highlight 2 offensive linemen because offensive linemen combines matter as well. Luke Kandra from Cincinnati. Yeah, the short shuttle.
Yeah.
Well, go look up the fastest short shuttle of all time in the O-line. It matters. Luke Kandra, Cincinnati offensive line. I don't think he's going to
Kelsey, wasn't
it? Kelsey was, yeah. Was. So, and then I think second was Tyler Linderbaum as pro day. But Luke Kandra, 289th, Cincinnati guard. I don't think he's going to test off the charts, but he's going to test, I think, well. And just like testing well, people are going to force him to go back and watch his tape, and his tape at Cincinnati is very good. And then Chase Lunt from UConn, this guy is going to test very well. He's incredibly athletic.
I like his tape.
Outside zone scheme, he can make that backside cutoff with relative ease. He's at 174 right now. I think he could go up about 50 spots after this.
Now, my next pick isn't probably going to make big leap in terms of the numbers.
It was my pick, but I'll let you have it.
But I think he's going to end up going in the second round, and that's quarterback Kyle McCord from Syracuse. And I find a quarterback I like every year more maybe than most people do, and I think you like him too. But,
I do.
But I think Kyle McCord stands in and takes shots, and he's tough, and he's accurate. Now, he's not a great athlete. I mean, he's a good enough athlete. He moves around a little bit, and he has a tendency to predetermine where he's going with the football at times, which he did against Pitt. It cost him a big time. But I think this kid is going to be a much better NFL quarterback than he's getting credit for right now. Kyle McCord is my pick.
I love his mental makeup because he could have literally went into the trash can after what happened at Ohio State. He goes to Syracuse and looks like a totally different dude. And I'm with Pete. I think he does go in the second round. He's my QB4 in this draft class. So I guess it's up to me right now. Kobe King, linebacker from Penn State at 172, which I couldn't believe he was that high. Yeah. Athletic guy, run hit guy, instinctual. I think he's going to jump at least into the third round. So at 172, you're talking about great value right there, guy jumping up.
Well, I'll say this about King. There's not a lot of guys that are like box run linebackers in this class. He's one of them.
Yeah.
Like he can take on blocks and play it between the tackles, and that's like, it looks sexy going and running out in space in college, but the majority of your play at the NFL level is just like dirty work in the middle.
Got to be able to shock and shed and get off those guards. My next guy is another guy that people aren't talking about enough, Barron Sorrell from Texas. I know we were talking about him on the pod earlier this week. He's at 136. People get enamored with those 2 defensive tackles, and they're really good players. But Sorrell, when you talk about him sort of being kind of like the heartbeat of that Texas defense, he did all the gritty and dirty work. He rushed inside on third down, has very efficient hands, gets – he extends on offensive linemen really quick, gets off blocks, make plays in the backfield, tackles for loss. He's at 136. I think he's going to go in the third round. He's a player that I really like as well.
You mentioned the 2 defensive tackles because I almost put Broughton on this list. I think Vernon Brown's going to be a really good player and kind of undervalued a little bit right now. But I did go with a defensive tackle. I put Jamari Caldwell from Oregon. I tell you what, you watch Harmon, and Harmon's a really good player, but you watch this kid. He is a big power player. And what is everybody looking for now? They want the copy. We're going to be big on the interior. We're going to be strong on the interior. I'll tell you what, the Buffalo Bills could use a guy like Jamari Caldwell in their defensive line. He would be perfect for him. So he's at 161. I think he's going to go much higher than that.
He just rolled before we went on camera here a 5.17 at about 330 pounds.
Woo!
That's a good time. That's a good time for a no-sack. Last one here. I'm going to go with Danny Stutzman. He's at 131 on the board, the Oklahoma linebacker. I think he's going to, have a frame and size that not a lot of guys in this class have, right? That's prototypical NFL middle linebacker size. And I think he's going to run pretty well. I think he is going to test, not off the charts anything, but I think he runs mid 4.6s. That's more than good enough. That's like for Jack Campbell was to go 18th overall.
Yeah.
Dave Sussman.
You know what's
going
funny? You know, I'm glad you put him on there because when you watch their tape and you watch their games, that kid makes plays all over the place.
He does.
He's a good football player, and sometimes those kind of guys, you know, you look at him and you go, well, you know, he's not a 4-4-5 guy or whatever, but sometimes you just need good football players,
Correct.
and he's a good football player.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, we're going to do a couple combine props that we saw drop yesterday, and we're going to rank and discuss the combine events that actually matter right after this. All right, combine props dropped last night on Prize Picks and Underdog. We're going to get to a few of our favorites. These might be outdated by the time we get them to air. But, Pete, what do you got for us?
I'm trying to remember which one I put down here.
I see Mike stole mine.
Mike?
Oh, you got Luther
Oh, I
Burden
got Luther
here.
Burden,
Over
4-4-1.
4-4-1?
I don't think he's running 4-4-1. I think he's
Interesting.
more of a 4-4-5 guy or 4-4-8 guy, something. He ain't running 4-4-1.
So I did not bet him because when I went back and when I watched and I wrote down all like top guys 40s, I wrote him exactly at 4-4-1. And so I
Yeah,
dropped
I'll
to
be
4-4-1,
surprised.
I'm like,
Well,
I'm not
if he
touching that.
runs 4-4-1, he's one of those guys that doesn't play to 4-4-1.
Yeah.
That's why I think
fair.
he's going to go over that.
Okay. Leger?
Well, you stole my top one, so I'll go to my second one. Jahai Campbell, I'm going to go over 4.47 because if he runs a 4.47, my goodness, he might go top 10.
Yeah.
Now, he's fast. He's very fast, but I don't think people realize how fast 4.47. Like, a lot of receivers aren't even running 4.47.
Correct.
So I'm going to go over 4.47 for him.
I like that one because he did come in 235 though. Came in a little lighter than what he's listed at, but still 235. There's just not a lot of guys who run
No.
that, and usually the ones that do, you're like, there's plays on tape where it's like, okay, wow, he just hawked a wide receiver. It's
Exactly.
like Peyton Wilson last year
Correct.
ran down guys from behind. It's like, okay, that's what a 4-4 looks like. I'm not sure I saw that on Campbell's tape. I agree. All right, mine. I'm not going to mention the D-line ones because they're going right now, but I do love Shamar Stewart. It started at
That's the one I
4.64.
Yeah.
It's down to 4.57. I think he's going under that, and he came in like 267. So he came to run fast. The one I do like, you watch his tape and you just are in awe of this guy's speed. It's Arian Smith from Georgia, under 4.3.
Ooh.
Feel very good about this guy running the 4.2s. He ran away.
Talk about the wide receiver
The wide
who
receiver.
played.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played it. He was a track guy.
Yeah, I mean, his ability when he just – it's not only just off the line, but some guys – the 40 is more about that last 20. Guys who have real blow-away speed.
Turnover.
He has his ability in that
And
last
right
20
now, he
is
looks
different.
more like a track guy playing football
That's
than a
correct.
football guy playing track.
For sure.
Correct. Speaking of track guys, the 40 is overrated in my opinion. I think we get
100%.
so we're going to get to the combine events. Which ones? We'll start with you, Pete. You don't have to rank them, but discuss like how you utilize the combine events, what you're looking for here over the course of this weekend.
Me personally,
Yes.
I don't put a lot of stock in the numbers. I'm a tape guy. If for example, I just told you I think Luther Burden doesn't play to his 40 time if he runs 4.41. The tape tells you something different than what that 40 time is, and yet people are going to stand on that 40 time. I think the tape tells the story. Now, there are situations if you have a corner who plays press man and he runs 4.75, then you're going to have a problem there.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, you can use the 40 time a little bit. If it's a negative, I don't think it positively is going to impact you going that way. But you don't want a corner playing 4.75 is going to be in your defense and play press man. So that concerns me a little bit. So, but most of the numbers, the shuttle, the short shuttle, all that stuff. Look, they're important. I get it. I don't think they test the right things. I think and I've had this talk with Smith that does the defensive line stuff, and he's always talked about Chuck Smith. Chuck's always talked about how they should change the testing for defensive linemen, and he actually had ways to do it, and they haven't done it yet, and they're still working on it. But I don't think you get a real gauge from these numbers on whether a guy can play. The most important thing here is two things: the medical and the interview.
Yeah.
And I will say this about the interview: I think the guys nowadays are so prepped that even that has lost a lot of its luster.
Age is ruining the combine.
They really do.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Leger, what about yourself?
Obviously, the interviews are very important, also the medical. But to me, I think the position-specific drills, like certain of them, not all of them, because a lot of them, I'm like, you, Pete, that's not a football drill. Like, what are we doing here? But for me, more specifically for the defensive line, if somebody has, like, tight hips or they have ankle flexion issues, you can see it on some of the bag drills. That's why I think doing the bag drills are more important than running a straight line 40 because it somewhat simulates football. Right now, it doesn't 100% simulate, but if a guy is struggling on tape, being able to get to that edge and turn that foot and get around the corner, and then you see it again at the combine, well, maybe there's something medical there, right? And maybe he can't do it, right? So that's why I think the positional drills are way more important than anything that's timed here at all.
What about like a bend drill? You know, like
Well, they kind of do the hoop.
But that's the hoop. But I'm talking about you put a bag. Like that's one of the drills that Chuck Smith did. He put the bag here and bend and time it from this point to that point.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of these aren't football drills. They're just agility drills. Like this.
To me, I think the most important thing, if I were just like one thing for like me personally, obviously I'm not in the interviews. I'm not privy to their medical stuff, but seeing verified heights, weights, arm lengths, that sort of thing, versus what they were listed at. You know, because Mason Graham came in today, the Michigan DT, listed at 320, 296, 32-inch arms.
Right.
It's like, that's a different guy. Those 320 is a nose tackle, 296 is a 3-tech. It's like, those are two different guys. So getting verified height, weight, arm length, that sort of thing, but then also how they test at that. And especially like tight ends a lot of the times is where I think that happens a lot. Defensive ends where, you know, maybe a tight end comes here who's like an undersized tight end. They get up to 250, but it's bad weight. Or an undersized edge rusher. They put on bad weight and then they don't test like the athlete. And then it's like, can the guy put it on and still do it? So I think it's how big are they and can they maintain the athleticism at what they're showing up at?
Here's another thing, and they'd never agree this in a million years, but the best way to evaluate the passers, the receivers, and the corners is to have 7-on-7 drill inside the dome.
They're never going to do
They
it.
never would agree to that. Never would agree to that. But you got to admit, when you watch a quarterback throw, big deal, you watch him throw. If you watch him throw and he hit 7-on-7 against the best corners with the best receivers, then you're going to get a better gauge on whether the receiver is good, the corner's good, you can play coverage with him, what can you do, how does he react in the zone? To me, that's the best way to evaluate players. So it's hard to get an evaluation on those.
I would say they'd probably push back and say that's why we have all-star games for that. Not everybody.
And now that everyone can go. Now that everyone
but everybody can go, but nobody goes to the All-Star game. So you come here and make them do that. What if they said to him, you're not getting drafted unless you do it?
Ooh, there'd be a lot. There's a lot of red tape there.
Of course there is.
Everyone pulls a hamstring the first 5 minutes. That's what they would do.
Probably. Yeah. But you got to admit, that's the only way you can evaluate it.
I mean, I think you almost have to incentivize to be like, hey, 5K a guy or whatever to come here.
But the
5K a day, that's like a major pay cut from college.
Exactly. For NIL.
Back in the day, you could have got away with $5,000.
Yeah. I don't know what would incentivize it. It's unfortunate what's happened to it that you really don't get to see these guys and guys opting out of their pro days too altogether. So,
do you guys ever remember the legend of Mike Mamula? Do you remember Mike? You guys are too young for that. Mike Mamula was a defensive end from Boston College and came here and tested like you wouldn't believe and made himself was going to be like a 3rd or 4th round pick at best. Ended up going, I think, top 15 in the draft and was never a good player. He's the ultimate lesson for what you don't do at the combine.
Who was Tony Mandrich?
Oh, yeah. But Tony Mandrich is actually a good player and really a good player.
Vernon Golston's another one.
Yeah, Vernon Golston.
Yeah. So,
you know what they need a heart test for before we get out of here? See if your heart pumps Kool-Aid or not.
That's facts.
You got to be. That was the old adage. Was the old adage, right? If your heart pumped Kool-Aid, you weren't tough enough.
Oh, I didn't know. I've never heard that before.
You never heard that? Yeah.
All right. Can't wait to see what happens over the course of the weekend. We'll be back afterwards, and we'll get these two guys back on at some point to go over our bet to see who raised up the most spots on the board after the combine. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep pushing.